Candace Caplin is my guest today. She's absolutely incredible, seriously, because first of all, let me start with that this September, she's bringing her play to New York City for the second time already,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The play that she wrote and produced, and it's really a treat.
Thank you.
So the link to the tickets will be on the YouTube video, so please check it out. Here we discuss life adventures, challenges, and the power of personal branding. I'm your host, Giulia Giuliatti. Welcome. We should probably start with the chronic illness. Because why it's important, many people suffer with chronic illnesses. And many people just, I'll say, feel sorry for themselves and just try to survive. You, on the other hand, decided, I have a life to live, and I want to live exciting life.
Yeah.
And you're not just living an exciting life, you're expanding. You start acting when you were 54.
54.
You start ballroom dancing when you were 64. Sky is the limit, or it's beyond the sky?
I'm now 75, and at 74 we were in New York putting the play up. My tribe says every 18 years is a new life. First of all, I want to thank you for coming to talk to me, because I adore you, and I was so impressed with your life story, and honored and flattered that you asked me to join you. But I do welcome the opportunity to talk about chronic illness, because I think people don't understand. They don't understand. I've been reading some great books. Gabor Mate writes The Myth of Normal. And what we call normal is so absurd. And that there is really no distinction between mind and body. And he writes, and I agree with him, when you don't say no, your body does.
Right.
Your body says no. And this society is not well versed in mind body. And when people say that's crazy, I say, okay. So when you're sad, what do your eyes do? They cry. Why?
And don't even ask. They just cry.
They just
because
cry.
they feel that.
They feel that, and it affects their body.
Mm-hmm. And what we do?
What do we do?
We fight.
And what do we do when we're angry? What happens to our bodies when we're angry? I started dealing with this, a lifetime ago. My kids were little, and I had my back hurt, and I went to an orthopedist who told me I had this wrong and that wrong. You spend the rest of your life in bed. And then I went to this wonderful doctor who had the courage to fight everyone he'd ever worked with, John Sarno, who told me that it was psychogenic, that it was my body responding to repressed emotion. I was offended, I was upset, I was whatever. He saved my life. Since then, I've been skiing and golfing and ballroom dancing and on stage and just living a life.
How it was possible for you to do that? What was the understanding that switched?
It's once you understand, pardon the pun, in your bones, once you understand in your bones that there is nothing physically wrong with you, you can let it go. I'll give you an example. It was the night before a dance competition a few weeks ago, right? And I'm anxious because, you want to do well. I'm anxious. And I take a shower that night. I get out of the shower. My thumb is killing me. My thumb is killing me. I'm like, getting to bed, and I'm thinking, when I get home, I should call the hand surgeon, I should get this fixed. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Have we met? I tell you what. Why don't you dance tomorrow? Let's see how your thumb is. My thumb was fine. Once I started dancing, my thumb was fine. Once you understand that the physical pain is a distraction from the emotional pain, you say, oh, there's nothing there. Brain, just stop. And it's gone. Sometimes it takes a couple of months, but you're like, the key to it is just understanding it and not going, oh my God.
Or maybe accepting it.
Yes, and not blaming yourself, right? And a lot of Gabor Mate's work is that I no longer blame myself. He says, don't ask what's wrong with you. Ask what happened to you, right? And then there's what I call the wound, right? Our childhood. I've spent most of my life recovering from my childhood. And that's what it is. And you have to say, okay, I know what this is. I know what this is. And I work with someone who's a chronic pain specialist. And I call her up and we talk and she gives me more tools. I use the tools and I'm okay again. I think most people my age have what they call chronic physical issues.
I hear this a lot.
And they have no idea. They have no idea that it'll just pass, so I do things that people say, you're 75 and you can do that, and I'm like, yeah, because I know. Or I would have stopped years ago if I didn't know.
Is it because you don't know or you don't want to know?
Oh, it's all of that. It's all of that.
Because kind of, if you don't know, it's more comfortable?
Yes.
You don't have to put some work?
Oh, okay. Okay, so from time to time, my feet hurt. And I'm a dancer. That's not convenient, right?
Right.
Then I go to one competition and all of a sudden I realize that my feet don't hurt. And I say to myself, Self, are you going to go out there and honestly do your best and see how you do without having the feet to blame? Are you going to go out there and give it everything you have? And I did, right? And I'm like, okay, that's what it's about. It's an excuse, it's a backup. We used to call them comp calls before a competition. I'd have a call. Well, what do you want from me? I'm sick. And I'm like, no, no. And outside the ballroom, there'll be friends in the hallway and they'll say, I have such a bad stomach today. Or my back is so bad today. I didn't sleep last night. And I just look at them and say, yeah.
Why do you think we rather do that than really researching and searching into ourselves? That's we are the problem. Why we let it go like this?
I think it's cultural.
Why?
There's the medical culture, which tells you right away there's something wrong with you, which isn't necessarily so. I think people don't want to see their weaknesses. I think the biggest self-help group would be low self-esteem, but they have too low self-esteem to join the group.
Interesting.
Right? And again, it's distractions from the emotions we are not proud of. So instead of feeling that and taking a further hit to our self-esteem, we have a bad knee, I have a bad ankle, oh, I can't think now, I can't talk now. You're not going to call your boss and say, I'm too anxious to come to work, but you'll call him up and say, my back hurts. It's just human, and I think in many ways the human thing kind of sucks.
Maybe it's also we are afraid to take responsibility for our actions.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so your brain is trying to protect you from all of that and gives you something else to think about, right? Or mull over or obsess about. I always say a backache is an obsession. You obsess about it. Oh, my back, I can't sit there and I can't sit there and I hope it's okay tomorrow and I hope it's this and I hope it's that and maybe it's not. And right? So if and when I'm going through something in my mind, like, oh, I gained too much weight, whatever thought it is you're obsessing about, I say to myself, oh, that's my backache. That's today's backache. Today's backache is that obsessive thought. So I don't think about this with my kids, or that with my grandchildren, or that with the world, or that with the world is a lot to deal with, especially these days. It's much easier to obsess about your knee. And I don't blame anyone. I'm just saying this is
Right.
this is what we do,
And I guess it's coming
there's a better
from
way.
childhood. So I guess we are programmed by our society and our parents. What would you think the other way would be?
I think the way the society raises children, the way I raised my children, is not good for them, right?
How so?
When we teach them not to cry, we teach them not to cry and they can sleep through the night, whatever, or you teach them not to cry so you can sleep or whatever. What are you teaching someone who is screaming for help and you ignore him? I was trying to explain this to my husband the other night, and I said, if you were helpless, lying on the living room couch, and you know I'm just kind of chilling in the next room, and your stomach hurts, and you're wet, your clothes are wet, and you're scared, and you call me, you say, Candace, and I don't come. Now you call me louder, Candace, and I don't come. You call me again, and I don't come. What are you going to think? You're going to think, oh, she doesn't care enough to come. Oh, okay, guess I'm not worthy. And from the crib, we grow up with, okay, I guess I'm not worthy. Now there are whole spectrums of that. Okay, I'm not worthy, they ignored me. But at some point, we have to raise ourselves, we have to be our own parent and say, no, you are worthy, right? And they did love me, but they didn't know how to share that. They didn't know how to do that. And a lot of this piece has come to me really from reading Gabor Mate, and you can check him out on YouTube. Everyone interviews him, thank God. Right? And he talks about how in the wild, right, a gorilla will keep its baby gorilla next to it for like 4 years or whatever. And here we say, okay, look, nice to meet you, put you in daycare. Nice to meet you, I'm going out to the day. Nice to meet you, whatever. And it's the way we live. It's the way we live, but if you stop and think about it and understand the effect it has on us, then we can deal with it. For me, the word maturity means mishigas management. Right? It means I've got my stuff, I know my stuff, I can manage my stuff because I'm familiar with it.
So you're saying more care is needed when we're children from
I
parents?
think an understanding of what a child needs would help a lot. Gabor Mate deals mostly with people he's a physician, he deals with people with addiction. And he says when an addicted or chronically ill person says to him, no, I had a happy childhood, he asks them, when you were a child, when you were upset, when you were scared, who did you confide in? And they go, oh. And he says, that's pretty lonely. And they answered, why we don't is because from laying on the couch and screaming for someone coming and they don't come, I'll be so good. I'll be so good and I won't bother anybody. And I won't have any problems. And I won't get them more upset. I won't get them, more. And that's how we live. And as painful as it is to be aware of it, I'd rather do that than be wagged by the tail, right? I prefer to manage it, because without managing it, I was always sick. Who needs that? Right.
So we adults, we can't change really our childhood, but we can do something as an adult, right?
As
So
an ad-
what are the tools to use? First of all, to start recognizing and realizing that this is a connection between mind and body, and if you twist your mind, then the body follows, and the other way around.
I think there are people to read. One of the best books, because it's kind of entry level, is The Way Out by Alan Gordon, who really explains the mind body. Anything written by Gabor Mate is life-changing. There's another book, Unwinding Anxiety. I forget the author's name. But these things have changed my life because I understand my life, right? And I have a very strong intention that you live life intentionally. You don't let it happen to you.
Were you always like this?
I don't know. I think I didn't always understand it. We are who we are. Very sensitive child. So sick as a child that they put me in a hospital and ends up with psychogenic. 5 years old, I'm in the hospital. They think it's meningitis. No. Yeah, you are who you are. I've always been a word person. I've always journaled. Always wanted to be an actress. Was afraid. There was a lot of rejection, and I'm like, just do it. Just do it. And there's always, I think people, the more they want to do something, sometimes the more they put it off. Because this way they have the fantasy they would have been good at it.
The perfectionism
Oh, the
kills
perfectionist is a
everything.
killer, my God. Yeah.
I know, I am guilty of that.
The perfectionist thing is a gift and a curse.
Yes, agree totally.
It's a gift because you're going to keep at it till you get it right. And it's a curse because you're going to keep at it till you get it right, when there's no such thing as right. Yeah, and I've learned a lot through my trials as an artist. You know, the things that you work at and go well and don't go well. And I think acting teaches you so much about yourself and enables you to accept so much more about yourself, because you have to use even the things that you hide, right? So I was such a good girl, you could die from it, and I take my first acting class, and you have to do a monologue. So why do I pick the monologue that's really angry? For such a good girl. So I picked
To
this.
finally let it
Yeah,
out.
so I picked this really, really, really angry monologue. And I do it. I do that. I think, oh God, I saw how angry I am. And then, oh, they're going to hate me now. And I finish the monologue and I say, okay, let's go for pizza. You say, oh, I was that angry and that terrible, and they don't seem to care. It's good. So you use every part of yourself, and you use every part of yourself. So the acting has been great.
What happened at the age 54?
Oh, okay. That's a very good question.
Because since you're saying you dream becoming an actress, you waited pretty long. But then what happened that you finally went through?
My sister died. Okay, my sister died at 50. And she died, and I must have been reaching a place where I was better able to accept whatever was going to happen from it. And I said to myself, you're running out of real estate. You either do it or you don't. And I'd been wanting to do it, really wanting to for so long. And I had gone to something else that happened that was a huge change for me. I went to a performance of Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de la Lune, right? And I went with another sister of mine who I was very close to. And there's a line in the play where the character says, I'm an actress and no one will ever know it. And we leave the play, and I say to my sister, boy, that line, I'm an actress and no one will ever know it, really hit me. And she looks at me and says, why?
Because I'm an actress.
and even you don't know it, right? And then I found a class, and the guy knew exactly what to say to me to get me to join this class. It's just fun. It's just fun. So I take the class, and at the end of the class, he says to me, he says, you're a natural, don't you know it? And I'm like, no. Because my take on it was, I finished the series of class, and my take on it was, okay, I'm good enough that I had reason to think I could do this, but I'm not that good that I wasted my life. I'm good for bar mitzvahs. And it's like, no. Wow, okay, and then you have a choice. There's an acting coach I was lucky enough to work with, Trudy Steibel, and her philosophy is, you have to want it more than you fear it. Right? So anything I look at, I'm like, if it scares me, do I want it more than I fear it? Usually I do. I do a lot of things that scare me. But I think not doing them is scarier. I went to a high school reunion this summer. I come back from the high school reunion, and
Those are always interesting.
someone about a little older than I am said to me, oh, a lot of your classmates must have passed on. And I said, yes, and they came anyway.
Yes.
Right? I mean, living is hard, but what's your alternative? I want it more than I fear it. And I want it badly. And I'm glad I want it badly. Because you look around, living is a lot of work. What are you doing it for?
But then you also have to kind of face these tragedies to start realizing that there is a time limit.
Oh, absolutely.
You need to have these triggers in your life. Unfortunately. Or fortunately, I'm not sure.
I think if you go through a crisis and you don't process it, it's a crime against nature, right? It's like it's a waste. But I've been through many things that, really make you appreciate, like, wow. Okay, so I had meningitis, and it took me a year and a half to get my life back, right? And the thing that meningitis taught me, every minute counts. Every minute counts. Because one day I'm well, and the next day I lose a year and a half of my life. And I'm like, every minute counts. Decide how you want to spend it, right? Plan your week out, plan things out, because otherwise you're not going to do them, right? So, they're a blessing in disguise if you look at it that way, if you use it that way.
Because everybody had crises in their lives,
Yes.
but not everybody, so to speak, waking up after the crisis and changing their life.
No. No, there was one woman who, gosh, she had something happen, and I asked her, what did you learn from it? What did you learn from it?
Right.
I learned that such and such sucks. And I'm like, well, okay. Right? Then you didn't use it. Right? You didn't use it. And
Learning from tragedies, is it teachable? Are you just a person who learns from tragedies, or you are taught, or you self-taught? How do you become a person that takes a tragedy and analyzes and learn from that? How to become one?
that's another wonderful question, because every night at dinner, my father would ask, may he rest in peace, every night he'd ask, what did you learn today? What did you learn today? And he wasn't talking about school. What did you learn today? And I think that's really, really my greatest pleasure and passion, is learning from everyone I meet, from everything I see. And I don't know, maybe you either like that or you're not. Like my husband, who just goes, he just goes and he does. He says, if I were like you, I'd have to kill myself. And I say to him, if I were like you, I'd have to kill myself. So we have one of each. We kind of meet in the middle, right? But
That's why 57 years of marriage?
57 years, because I got lucky. He was the right guy.
Oh, he got lucky.
There's some luck involved. I met him and said, that's the guy. That's the guy. I was very young. I didn't think it was actually going to happen or work out, but I'm like, that's the guy. Okay.
How did you know?
I don't know. I think it's a recognition from another lifetime. I think when people say they fell in love immediately, that's what it was.
Interesting.
But it was the way he was standing. It was just, that's the guy. I looked at him and knew he had never been a boy. All right? He knew who he was. He knew what he wanted. Like, okay, that's the guy. And then 2 weeks later, we went out. And that night, when he left, I'm like, we're going to get married. Either we're going to get married or this is going to be a disaster. And then I think, if I were going to give some marriage advice, which I did to my grandson this weekend when he got engaged, I'm like, I think the biggest thing to make it work is so simple it's going to sound idiotic. Please and thank you. Right? Please and thank you. Not get the glass for me. Could you please get the... But to show more respect to a stranger than you do for the most important person in your life, and you see it and you hear it and it makes me cringe. And I think the most important thing is thank you. Thank you. People want to be appreciated. People want to be seen. Thank you. Thanks for running that errand. Thanks for being here today. I thank my husband genuinely for everything he does, which is partly from my impoverished childhood. I appreciate everything that man does for me. And I make sure he knows it, right? Anything he does, like, he got an award from the golf club the other day. I made sure to take a picture of his award, send it to everybody in the family, look, you know, Dad got this award. Just make each other feel bigger, make each other feel better, just celebrate everything good.
And it's interesting, we as a people tend to do that for strangers.
Yes.
For people we hardly know.
Yes.
But completely ignoring our closest person
Right.
that is next to us for many years. Start taking this person for granted.
It's going to work when the other person's overall happiness is as important to you as yours.
Right.
And if it's not, I don't know why you're with them.
Back to life is short.
Life is short.
Time is limited.
Time is
so
limited.
make the best out of it.
Make the best out of it.
Any part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. On New Year's Eve, we share lists. Moments I loved you the most. It has to be a moment. It can't be the trip to Maine. It has to be we were in Maine and I was freezing and you went to the car and got a jacket for me. It has to be specific. Now, the reason this works is because, I don't know if it's human nature, but it's very easy to remember when he pissed you off.
Right.
Right? But you want to have something to write on New Year's.
So during the year you have a notebook?
No, you're not allowed to write it down. And the competitive edge is you want to have at least as many things on the list as he does. Right? So when it happens, you make a point of noticing it, putting it in the memory bank. I remember just laying on a hammock together one afternoon somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I need to remember this on New Year's. And then you have it written down. And then during the year when he pisses you off, you can pull it up and say,
Refresh your memory.
It's not all bad, right? And then we started doing this about 30 years ago. You save it. And now you have a record of the 30 years and the moments, and I write other lists on that, because again, I'm a word person, so I'll write down moments I was proud of me. Has to be a moment. Moments I was proud of me. Big things that happened this year. Things that I would like to do better.
I started doing this similar thing about myself, recording and remembering. I probably last, I would say, 5 years.
Yeah.
It makes huge difference. Huge. Boosting your self-esteem, because sometimes you need it.
Yes.
And you don't know where to find it, but then you open the notebook and you're reading all of your accomplishments and like, not so bad.
Absolutely.
I accomplished a lot. If I accomplished a
Absolutely.
lot this, I can accomplish so much more.
Yes.
So you get in charge out of your notes.
But again, it's another way of taking a look, right? And not just seeing where you're doing well, but seeing where you could do better.
Right.
Like there was one year I wrote what I'd like to do next year. I would like to fail more.
Interesting.
I would like to try more things that I'm not good at. I'd like to fight the perfectionist who's afraid to try things. I don't have enough failures written down from last year. I didn't go outside the box enough.
That's interesting. I will definitely borrow this one.
And obviously,
That's interesting perspective.
I don't want to fail. But what I'm
Yes,
saying
yes.
is, you didn't take that risk. You didn't take that risk. And now with the play, the idea is to get it back to New York and off Broadway. And people say to me, well, that's so hard to do. And I say, if I don't try, it won't. Yeah, as a perfectionist, I deal with the curse of failure, but I'm like, something may fail. If you go out there with the courage to try it, you are not a failure, right? You've taken yourself and risked. Not everyone does that, right? If that works for them, that's great. That's great. And maybe a lot of the things that happen to me that aren't so great are helping me because no, I'm going to prove them wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure I do okay. I'm going to make sure it works out. Well, and that's that. And then you have good friends who say, that's the perfectionist, just knock it off. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Tell me about this play, how the idea came.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the play. It's an older woman and her young dance instructor.
I wonder who it was.
How I could have come up with that, I have no idea. And then
It's about ballroom,
it's about ballroom.
which you started at the age 64.
It's a ballroom comedy, 64. I've been in it, in it a while.
Let's rewind a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Why, at the age 64, you decided to are gonna be a ballroom star?
Okay.
Which you are.
Well, it didn't start out that, thank you, it didn't start out that way. It started out, I'm going to dance because I need, yeah, I was starting a theater company at the time. And if you want stress that can make diamonds, you want to start a theater company. And I'm like, I have to do something to deal with some of the stress. And I always loved to dance, so I'm like, I'm going to take dance lessons. And then once you start taking the dance lessons, you really get into it. And as a perfectionist, it keeps getting better and better. I'm like, oh no, I got to keep getting better, better and better. And then you end up with a passion, you know. Yeah, so we ended up writing this story. My writing partner and I, Kim St. Leon, and I spent the first couple of months of lockdown and the pandemic on the phone writing this play. And has a lot of twists and turns, but basically she's some heiress in New York who's suddenly widowed, okay, and now she's dancing with this young guy, and her daughter comes and finds them together and has a fit and hires a private detective. And the private detective, he goes in drag to go take a tango lesson with this guy, and then is he trying to kill her? Is he trying to kill her? And dance moves the story along, and it's very, very funny. And we did it like, okay, we put it up in New York for a couple of weeks and we're done. Everyone loved it. I'm still overwhelmed by the response. So everyone was, when is it going to come back? And I'm like, gee, let's make it come back. Right, so that's what we're doing with that. And all of that was also based on my mother had a gigolo and I had to hire a private detective.
Wow. So there's a lot of truth.
Nice Jewish girl. Well, we always talk about a play that's sort of semi-autobiographical. We always say we lie to tell the truth. You know, and so we lied to tell the truth. And we had one scene that we couldn't make work in the context and the flow of the play, but I love this scene. We call it the real mom. You have a woman stand up in the audience and say, did you think I'd be dead by the time you put this up? Did you think I wouldn't come? Did you think I wouldn't know? I look really bad. You gotta have fun, you know, we're born with joy, and we just put so much stuff on top of it. And I don't care what your passion is. I won't say find it, build it. Right? Be curious enough about something that interests you to become really good at it and really enjoy it. I don't care if it's gardening or cooking, things that are not my thing. If it's your thing, oh gosh, go for it. Right? Because Why else are we here?
The best
course.
excuse, I don't have time, I don't have money, maybe later.
Okay, so I believe in the universe. I believe things happen in a certain way that are meant. And I was on a flight that was so delayed and was sitting on the plane forever, and I'm watching this thing on meditation, okay? And it was meant because I was able to watch the end of the meditation lesson. And at the end of the meditation lesson, this guru on meditation said, people say to me, I don't have the time. And my answer is, all we have is time. What we do with it is up to us. Well, you don't have the time, you have to make the time.
It's just a choice.
It's all a choice. They're not always good choices, but you have to choose.
Why are we afraid to choose?
Because if you choose and you say, that's what I'm going to do, and then you don't or you can't, there's risk in choosing. And there's acceptance, there's responsibility in choosing. We choose every day. Loving someone is a choice. It's not just something that happens to you. There are days I'm like, what am I doing here with him? And then I need to figure it out and choose. Right? And I think so many people, they don't choose. It's like they just let life happen to them. And you get up in the morning, what mood are you in? You have a choice. Like gratitude is not something that just happens to you. You gotta look for it. So look for it. You know, like one of the tools. If you wake up in the morning and you spend 5-10 minutes listing the things you're grateful for, if you go out and have a miserable day, you must have wanted to, right? And then you say, well, where's the reward in this? But a lot of that is the unwanting anxiety book. It's like, where is the reward in this behavior? And then you say, oh, no, the reward isn't great enough. It's just not great enough. And take another tack. It's like, you talk about a long-term relationship. How many people just, okay, we've lived together forever. No, I'm like every couple of years, do I still want it? Yeah.
That's my new theory, that every couple should renew their contract at least every 5 years. Better yet, every year. You come together at a certain time and say, do I still choose you?
Oh, yeah.
I think people will be much more happier.
We've gotten married about 3 times now. Literally got married 3 times. Yeah, it's a constant choice. And I went overboard in the beginning. I was a kid, what did I know? And I thought you really had to do the make sure your makeup is on thing, and right? And no. No, I now trust me enough and trust him enough, you know, because you grow up with abandonment issues. It's hard to trust, but that's the risk. You're going to trust? I think so. Yeah, I'm going to trust. He's earned it. Oh, yeah. Look, he's still here, right?
Where do you get this physical energy to do all this stuff? What are your suggestions? What are your tools? Because people tend to blame not doing things on age.
Oh, they do.
I am older now, I don't have energy. What would you say?
I'm going to say a couple of things to that. First, I'm going to say it's because of age is a cop-out. It's as much a cop-out as a bad knee or whatever it is. It's a way of saying, I quit. Top thing, I quit. I work out a lot. With the dancing, I work out a lot. I don't drink. I never did. I don't drink. I watch what I eat. I get a good night's sleep. Every night is an Epsom salt tub.
Oh, I love that too.
Right? Some of the over-the-counter products that I take. Recharge after I work out.
Supplements.
Glutamine, yeah, supplements. And past 5-10 years, I weigh everything I eat. I mean, not crazy, but if you're going to put it on a plate, put the plate on a scale first. I take care of myself. But again, I think it's the not having the cup out. And you can't not work your body for 20 years and turn around at 80 and say, oh, look, it's like money in the bank. If you don't build it up, there's nothing there.
Right.
You gotta build the muscle. I am actually a better athlete at 75 than I ever was before. So whenever I complain to Ronnie, my dance instructor, whenever I complain to him, oh, I can't do it, I'm old, he looks at me and he's like, really? Really? And when I say, no, that's too much for me, he says, really? Do we have to go to a hospital? I say, no. He says, then it's not too much. That's not too much. And I think mostly it's an awareness of body ailments and understanding that there's nothing wrong. Because if I hadn't gone to Dr. Sarno, I would have been one of those old people with no energy, no muscle tone, no joy, because everything would be, is this going to hurt me? Is that going to hurt me? Is that going to injure me? Is that going to injure me? And that's such a limited way to live. Even with the pandemic, okay, so you don't want to get sick. I'm talking about before vaccine. I have a husband in his late 70s. I don't want to bring anything home. I'm going to be careful, careful, careful. And then at some point you say, this is so isolating. This is so limiting. This is so not living. I'd rather go out and take a chance. Which again doesn't mean you don't fear it. It's wanting something more than you fear it. I hate getting sick. I'm the one on the airplane now wearing the mask, but I'm getting on the airplane. Because what's my alternative? My alternative is, where's the joy in your life? I listened to someone years ago who was talking about living and not having responsibility or whatever. And he said, freedom isn't a lack of commitments. Freedom is the ability to choose your commitment. For me, the joy in your life is only going to be as joyful as you commit to it. I dance because of what it does for me as a human being while I'm dancing. It gets me in touch with all the parts that I hide from me, right? There's a reason why they say dance like nobody's watching, because you are so exposed. Fine, I'll go out there and I'll do that because it feels so good. You do so much of the same thing,
Yes.
right? You're always on the edge. You're always on the cusp. You're always on the, what can I risk now? And how are we going to make this really dangerous? And how am I going to, right?
I want to feel alive.
I was talking to a professional fireman the other night, a young man, loves what he does. Loves what he does. It's dangerous. And people commend him for taking the danger. And that's part of the pleasure of acting, because you go to these terrible places and people go, oh, it's so good you went there. And I'm like, yeah, wow, look at that. I was able to murder someone. Wow, that's so advanced for me. And typically, the actors that I know are very shy people. I'm a very shy person. Very shy people. And this acting is their opportunity to use everything they're hiding. Right? Extroverts.
The acting becomes a mask and a freedom and a key to freedom for shy people. How interesting.
That's it. Because your character is your mask.
You use your mask. You're hiding, so you're safe.
Yeah, you can
but
be anything you want. But
with the sense of safety, you can express everything.
And they'll commend you for it. And they'll go, wow. And which I never liked. Somehow I always play the bitch. And then when they hate the bitch, I hate that they hate the character, because I understand why she did it. Right? I completely understand what's wrong with everybody else. But you have to reach that point for your character. What's wrong with everybody else? Of course. Yeah, so that's the mask. And then you write your own play and you put yourself in it. You can't blame the playwright. You can't blame the playwright. You can't say, look, I'm not that character. Right, but it's so funny. And I have one friend who came to the play who said, I learned so much about you watching that play. Stupid me, I'm like, really? I guess you see a writer's point of view. And my point of view is always make the most of it and believe in the good ending, and be true to yourself. Do whatever you think is right. If you ask my kids, what's the one thing your mother always told you that you could always quote, it would be, do what you can live with the longest. Do what you can live with the longest. That's going to tell you what's right for you. Right? Like, my late sister calls me and says, I don't want to go to so-and-so's honoring. I'm going to have to get in a plane. I'm going to fly there. I have to whatever. And there's nothing you can say that's going to make me want to go. And I say, okay, so if you don't go, you're going to think about it for the next how many years? And if you do go, it's overnight and you're done with it. She goes, shit. That's how you decide. Once you've decided, don't look back. What if I had done that? What if I had done this? What if I had done that? You know, don't look back. The sister I was close to died a year ago, and she had a choice, more chemo, not more chemo. And people were trying to tell her what to do. I'm like, you can't tell someone how to live, and you can't tell them how to die. And I think in a situation like that, anything you choose is courageous. Choosing to do it takes courage. Yes. Choosing not to do it takes courage. And then own your choice and live with it. You will gain nothing by looking back. Right? You'll just hurt yourself with that.
Many are afraid of making choices because they say, what if I will choose something wrong? What if my choice is not the right choice?
Make it the right choice.
How would you know which one is the right choice?
Well, it depends on the situation. You could go to what if can I live with the longest? What do I think is the most honest? What I think is the most me? What I think is the most kind? What I think is the most productive? What do I want? And you choose. And if it doesn't work out, you either make it better or you move on. You say, that was a mistake. Why can't people say, that was a mistake? Right? And just, that was a mistake. Sorry, that was a mistake. You're over it. But when you keep denying it was a mistake, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And then within that mistake, you have choices. Do I stay? Do I go? How do I fix it? Is it worth fixing? Make it work. Make it work. Like there were some things during the pandemic. You're now living with someone 24/7, right? And there's no escape. They're in a small space at the time. And there are a few things that Peter would say that would make me crazy. And I'm like, I need to stop, think, and figure this out. Like, we rarely argue. So if we have an argument, he will look at me and honestly say, oh, we've been fighting for 2 weeks. And I'm like, how can you say that? How can you say that? And then I understood, you look at it from his point of view, how can he say that? Because that's how it feels to him. That's how it feels to him. I have one friend who's a playwright who suggests if you want to understand how someone else feels, write them a letter. Don't send it in your head. Write them a letter. This is an issue, and that's an issue, and that's an issue. And send it. Receive the letter. Right? And now answer it. This was that, and that was that, and that was this.
And this is all your inside job, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I understand how he sees it. Once I understand how he sees it, I can react honestly and logically and not take offense at things and see where he's coming from, even if he's coming from as a place I don't agree with. At least I see where he's coming from. We have a place, we have a starting place. That's why I say fix it.
So you suggest instead of talking, writing to each other?
Oh, no. No, what I'm saying is, sure, talk to each other. What I'm saying is if you want to really understand someone's point of view, and you're not necessarily in a place to talk to them about it, figure it out from
put yourself in his own shoes and answer your own questions.
Yes, because he doesn't have the answer. He doesn't know why he's upset that, it's been going on for 2 weeks. He's clueless. I'm like, oh, because that's how it feels to him. Right? Or like, lately I find, it's when he disappoints me, why does he get angry at me? And he's clueless. I'm like, oh, because it makes him feel bad that he disappointed me. So now he's angry at me that I made him aware that he disappointed me. It's nuts. It's nuts. But at least I get it. And I'm like, okay, that's the deal here. Don't let it go. But he doesn't know what motivates him. If you want to understand what motivates people, take a couple of acting classes. It's the next best thing to taking psychology classes because you can say, what made that character do that? What made that character do that?
It's like self-therapy.
Yes.
So talking to yourself is actually beneficial.
Yes.
Have conversations with yourself regularly.
Yeah.
Good for your health.
Yeah. It's like, okay, like Kim St. Liam is teaching a class, acting class. And she says, why do people call their friends and complain about whatever it is? Why? Why do they call their friends and complain and whatever? And people went around the room giving different reasons. No one had the right reason. And the right reason was your fantasy is that the friend you're talking to is going to take the problem away. Right? And she would say, the character doesn't know what he wants, but the actor has to know what the character wants. Right? So you look at people and you get it or you don't. You and I both know people with wonderful antennas, right? And they get it, and they'll meet you and they'll know everything about you that they need to know. Is to learn who you are.
Is to have constant conversations with yourself.
Kind ones.
Kind ones.
Kind ones. And just to face the fear of knowing who you really are, right? And what you really want. And
take responsibility.
Take responsibility
for your actions,
for your actions.
For your thoughts.
And if you don't know what you want, how will you know if you got it? Right? Like if you're really ambivalent about something, you'll never know if you got what you wanted. Figure it out. And you don't necessarily figure it out by sitting down thinking, what do I want? No, just be open. Just be open to whatever honestly goes through your brain. Meditation helps. It's like, I've been doing yoga nidra, and it just clears your brain, right? I like all of a sudden, so many things that I've seen all my life make so much more sense. Right? It's like you cleared out your strainer. It's like more stuff is coming in and you're like, oh, I see what that is. No, I see what that is. I see what that is. Oh, that's okay. Instead of running from it, which is, it's exhausting. And so many of us are running. Don't even know what you're running from. My favorite line in the play is one character says, I'm so scared. And the other one says, of what? She says, I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm so afraid of what? I don't even know. And a lot of the times my body is saying, I don't even know. And I'm like, that's okay. I just know it's going to pass. And then it does. Because you're not obsessing on it. You stop using it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we're going to have a link at the end of the video with the play.
That's great.
How to get tickets.
Thank you.
And all the social media links also will be there.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Candace.
Appreciate it. I love you. You're the best.